when man got reunited to God, everything got better. Don't you see? Jesus is the connector. He said, there is no way to the Father but through me. You say, that's awfully rude. What if I said, because what about all the other religions? Jesus is saying exclusively there is no way to the Father except through him. And yet all religions say there are other ways to the Father. But so Jesus is kind of snobbish, isn't he? How rude. Really? Because if I said to you there's only one way to turn the lights on in this building and you got to flip the switch, that's not good. If that offends you, you got some real issues. You have to flip that switch. You know, it doesn't matter what color you are. If you just flip that switch, you know, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you just flip that switch, you know, it doesn't matter what education you have. You just flip that switch, the lights are going to go on. Do you know that? Well, that's kind of rude. How come I can't flip a switch over there? Because it doesn't work that way. Sorry, it's not that way. It's nothing to offend you. It's not to be rude. It's just the only way to experience the life of God and the power of God is to connect to the proper source. And Jesus is the source. Listen, our culture, I'm going to read some stuff that I wrote, but I hope this helps us in this moment. Our culture is cultivating lone wolves because of the lack of connection. The comparisons on social media because of a lack of connection. The broken conditions of families because of the lack of connection. The sick church that is often a clique rather than a community. It's because of the lack of connection. The absence of fathers in our culture is because of a lack of connection with God as Father. The presence of soulless men whose souls are buried in their insecurities and fears is the reason why we're in the situation that we are in today. Amen. The very thing we grieve whenever there is a school shooting or an act of evil violence, the very thing we grieve has been created by our culture. You mean like jazz, or what kind of culture are you talking about, Pastor? The culture of disconnection. It's a culture of disconnection. The most connected people on social media are actually the loneliest people. Because social media is not the church. Social media is not the family of God. Social media is not how the power flows. Popularity might flow through social media, but that's where, and you say, well, hasn't this existed before social media? Yeah, it's just magnified. Modern culture is a laboratory specializing in manufacturing mental illness and psychopaths. I don't know, Pastor, is the phone going to ring on the TV show if you talk about this? I don't care if the phone rings. I'm trying to... Someone's knocking on the door. Somebody's ringing the bell. Someone's knocking on the door. Somebody's ringing a bell. Do me a favor. Open the door and let them in. Yes, I woke up this morning with a song in my head. I'm just getting them all the fish out of the aquarium right now. I'm swimming around in there. I literally woke up and the song Piano Man started playing in my head. Sing us a song, the Piano Man. Remember Billy Joel? Sing us a song tonight. We're all in the mood for a melody, and you got us feeling all right. And then there's these words in that song that say, and they're sharing a drink called loneliness. And then it says, it's better than drinking alone. Every child that is disconnected from a healthy parent is going to be mentally ill. I'm sorry. That's it. And only when we're reconnected to the parenthood of God can we heal. You know, what makes a TV show interesting, what makes a movie interesting, it's the stories of each of the characters. When something is really well written, it is because the writer has told you the story somehow of that person's life and their history and why they are the way they are. And so you'll see a character in the fullness of the fruit of his life or the fruit of her life, but then they'll flash back to a scene in their childhood when that seed of loneliness was planted and that seed of brokenness was planted, or the seeds of healing and the seeds of healthy relationships were not planted. And it is always the same story. It is told in different ways with different people and different colors and different backgrounds and different nationalities and different age groups. But the story is always the same. Somewhere in that person's childhood, their formation and their development was stunted because of a lack of love, a lack of connection, a lack of knowledge, a lack of safety, a lack of security, a lack of identity. The crisis we're in is an identity crisis. You think about the psychological description of every shooter, killer, and every person who acts out with violent behavior. It is always the same. That young man in today's culture has been put in a field fertilized by loneliness, by insecurity, and by hopelessness. Many of those men, if not all of them, most of them have not had a father or have not had a good relationship with him. You say, well, what about mothers? That's true too, but most mothers are present. And most mothers do the job. That's why the emphasis must be put squarely on where there is a brokenness of the connection.